Hi, and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy, and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, October 25th, 2024. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoy this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I want to mention, because I always forget, that I have a link in my description box below to a Ko-fi account that I have had open for a long time, but I've never mentioned it. And a few of you have donated to that Ko-fi account, so I really appreciate that so very much. That's so generous of you and very thoughtful of you to even be able to notice that it is linked down below, and to be willing to donate to that is so much appreciated. That really helps me out to be able to pay for the shipping costs whenever I mail out prizes. So I really appreciate that, and I just wanted to make sure I said a thank you to those of you who have donated to that account in the past. I really genuinely appreciate that so very much. I have a few finished objects to share with you all. Two finished objects, and both of them I've started and finished since the last episode. So I hadn't even started them last time I recorded, and I've already finished them. Oh, but before I talk about those, I wanted to mention that I am wearing 2 handmade items that I have made in the past and have talked about on previous episodes. The dress that I am wearing is a Hinterland dress by Sew Liberated, and I sewed this last year, about this time last year. It's about a year old, I think. And I had mentioned a couple of episodes ago that I am in the process of making another Hinterland dress, but the last time I showed it on an episode, I said the next thing that I needed to do was add the neck band, or the neck facing, and I'm still working on that part of it. So my sewing machine has given me a bit of trouble. I think that I was using some older thread that probably wasn't the best quality, and so I've purchased some better thread recently, and I'm gonna give that a try, and hopefully that fixes my problems. And then I also think I'm gonna try using my walking foot, because I'm using the same type of material as this is, which is a jersey knit stretchy kind of material. So I think my walking foot would be a better choice, because on the neckband, so I'm doing this part right here where you're doing the neck facing, and you're sewing through probably 4 layers of fabric at that point, and so I think it might be helpful to use the walking foot on my machine. So anyway, I haven't made a lot of progress on it. That's why I haven't mentioned it, but I am still working on it slowly but surely. And then I'm also wearing my Ariana cardigan, which is a free pattern by Amy Christoffers. I finished this earlier this year, and yeah, I'm really happy to be able to get some use out of it. I finished it kind of, I think, at the end of the winter season, so I never really got a chance to wear it much at all before it warmed up too much. And anyway, so I'm happy to be able to get some use out of it today. I crocheted / knit this all out of Knit Picks palette, which is fingering weight yarn, 100% Peruvian Highland wool. I am an ambassador for Knit Picks, and so I have a code that you can use if you are interested in getting any Knit Picks orders. You can save 15% on your order with the code that I have here if you would like to do that. I don't think that it's an affiliate code or anything like that. It's just a code for your benefit. If you would like to save a little bit on your Knit Picks order, you're more than welcome to use that discount code. I did have a couple of other yarns that I put in this, but they were just 2 different yarns. The majority of the yarn that's in this cardigan is Knit Picks palette. So anyway, I will link to the episode where I talk about this as a finished object if you're interested in checking out more details on how I made this cardigan. So the first finished object that I didn't even have as a work in progress last time is this headband that I'm wearing. It was a super fast project. I did not follow a pattern. I just did my own thing. So I will put my notes in the description box below if you're interested in making one similar. Basically what I did was kind of followed the idea of the pattern that you would use for a granny stripe blanket. I just made it super narrow. So it's all done in granny stitches. So, you know, 3 double crochet stitches in clusters. And I used Knit Picks palette for this headband as well. It's one of the colors that's in my cardigan. It's Hollyberry. And I held it double for the headband. So it was a super fast project. I bet it took me about an hour to make. It was so fast. So I started off, well, I'll take it off so that I can kind of explain how I made it. I started off with a chain of 40 stitches so that I could have, you know, a tie. And then I just did I did like a V stitch, so double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and then I just increased to 3 double crochets on the 3rd row and 4 on the next row, and then I started doing a granny cluster. Anyway, I just continued increasing until I got to probably this row right here, where I could just do a straight granny stitch across without having any increases, until the headband measured 15 inches from the first row, not counting the tail. So from this first peak or point, and then I decreased in the same way that I had increased. So again, I will link to, or I'll put in the description, my notes. Hopefully they'll make sense. But it was a very simple. Of course, I then ended with a chain of 40 again, so that I had an even, you know, headband. And I've found that it's easiest for me just to actually tie it into a bow before I put it on my head, because otherwise it's really hard to tie it under my hair without catching my hair in it. So I just tie it in a bow like this, and then I can just slip it on. And that works the best for me. So I think that's pretty cute. And it actually does add quite a bit of warmth since it's 100% wool. I went on a walk this morning and it was maybe 50 degrees, but it was quite chilly. Only 50 degrees. And this really added quite a bit of warmth. It helped to keep me warm. So that was great. And it was just such a fun and easy project to make. I used a 4mm hook for this project, and I made it on October 13th. Like I said, it only took me about an hour, so start and end date were the same, of course. My other project that I was able to start and finish since the last time is another one of the projects from my Make 9 board. And it is the Time in a Bottle shawl, which is another free pattern by Ninja Bunny Crochet. It's a tutorial on YouTube that I have followed. So of course I will link to that in the description box below. And here it is. When I had first planned to make this project, in fact, when I started this project, I was using some different yarn, and then I realized that I had 3 big cakes of Lion Brand mandala, probably. And I realized that I was only, I think according to the tutorial, she uses that same exact yarn in the tutorial that I'll link to. And she only calls for 1 of those cakes, and I have 3 of those cakes. And so I thought I kind of wanted to use that mandala yarn for maybe a blanket or something instead, a bigger project, because I could make 1 of these shawls, but then I'd still have 2 left over, and I thought it'd be better to use all 3 of those cakes in 1 project. So instead, I used some different yarn. It's all gifted to me by, 3 of the different colorways that I put into this shawl were gifted to me by my cousin Allie, and then 1 of the colorways was gifted to me by Sharon, who had gifted me a bunch of yarn I showed off a few episodes ago. So a viewer of this channel. So the yarn that my cousin gifted to me is called Barocco Millefiori. Here's one of the bands. And I had 3 different color numbers. This is a worsted weight and 50% wool, 50% acrylic. The 3 colors that I used are the very first color I used here is number 7885. And then the next section is made using the yarn that Sharon gifted to me. And then the next one of that Barocco yarn is number 7859, which is so beautiful with these blues, golds, purples, so pretty. And lastly, I used number 7887, and that's another one that's just so beautiful. I really enjoyed working with that Barocco yarn. It had such a neat finish to it. Sometimes it just feels, it's almost like it glows. This section right here, it's in person. I don't know if it's coming across on camera, but in person it just is vibrant and beautiful. And then it also has other sections that are more dull. That I thought it went so well with the yarn from Sharon, which is a Red Heart Unforgettable yarn. And that's another worsted weight. It's 100% acrylic, but it had the same single ply. They're all single ply yarns. And that is in the Dragonfly colorway. And she had sent me a partial skein of that. And it just worked so well with the other Barocco yarn. The colors and the actual weight and the makeup, like just the way that the yarn was spun, I guess, they were very similar. And I thought they went so well together. So I kind of did a sort of fade type thing with these colors, and I thought it turned out so well. I'm really happy with this. I started this project on October 13th and finished it on October 23rd. So it was a pretty quick project. I used an H 5mm hook. And I don't know who this is going to. I'm just going to be adding this to my gift box so that I can gift it to someone at some time down the road. I just really enjoy this pattern. This is only the second time that I have crocheted this pattern, but I have loved it both times. So it's such an enjoyable and easy pattern to follow. It's really just a 2-row repeat, and it's so much fun. The only thing that you really have to pay attention to is you do one little different stitch on the spine, I guess, of the shawl. You start at the top here, and then it just increases. So you can make it as big as you want it, of course. You can just continue working it until your yarn runs out. So that worked really well. It was such a fun project. And I think it's beautiful. I should try it on so you can see how it wears. So I made it big enough so it wraps around like a scarf or, you know, like a bandana shawl type thing really easily. And then, you know, the colors are just so bright and vibrant. I really love how they look this way. And that would be, of course, super cozy under a coat or something in the winter. And then you can also wear over the shoulders really nicely. I was thinking about how long, on my last episode, I had shared that I had finished my Italian winter shawl, which I had knit using fingering weight held double, but it took me months. Of course, I did put it in kind of hibernation for a long time and didn't work on it, but still it took me so long to make that shawl, and it's not much bigger than this one, and this one took me 10 days. So the comparison of knitting to crocheting is quite vast. Anyway, it wears over the shoulders so nicely as well. Nice and cozy. This way too. Isn't that pretty? I just love the colors in it. It's so fun. Colorful. So anyway, I was very happy to get another one of my Make 9 projects done. And so now I just have the cardigan that I'm working on left to finish, and then all of my Make 9 projects will be completed. All right, those are my finished objects, so I'll go on to my works in progress next. I have an update on my Scrappy flower blanket, hexie flower blanket that I am working on. Last time I recorded, I shared with you that I had finished all 28 full motifs that I needed to make, which look like this. And I needed to make 4 half motifs. I was thinking that I needed to make those 4 half motifs to be a little bit larger than I actually did. I only needed to make them with this. I needed to make them like this size. I thought that I needed to make 1 extra row for the motifs, but I didn't. So here is one of the motifs I've finished. I have little papers numbered on each of them because I have now laid it all out and have started piecing it together. And so that's just helping me keep track of which hexagon motif goes where. But anyway, I love the colors in this one. And I also love the colors in this one. So pretty. And then I have 2 more that I've already worked into the blanket as I'm piecing it together. I had found a diagram in a different crochet blanket book that I have, and I liked how that looked. So I've made a copy of that here. So this is the diagram of how I am placing my hexagons. On this diagram, they did not make those half hexagons, but I wanted to fill in those spaces. So you can see I've kind of drawn in how mine looks on the bottom there. And I have, here's my diagram of all of my hexagons placed and numbered so that I can keep track of which one goes where. They're numbered according to the order in which I made them. And yeah, I've started piecing the blanket together. I've started on the bottom. I started here on this corner and I've worked across and then added this one and these 2. So I'll show you how it's looking. Before I do that, the yarn that I am using for piecing them together, I'm holding in this cute little hexie bag that I got off of an Etsy shop called My Creative Frenzy. And I am using just bare yarn to piece my hexies together. It is Knit Picks Muse fingering weight in the bare color, and it is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. I am using a C 2.75 millimeter hook, and it's going so well. I'm really happy with how it's coming along. So this is the bottom, but I'm going to kind of hold it this way because it'll be easier. So it's kind of upside down, not that it matters, but so this is along the bottom according to the diagram that I shared with you. And I actually started with the very first hexagon motif that I made. So that was just coincidental because it was just the way it happened to lay out in the diagram. But you can see another one of the half motifs that I've made since the last time I recorded there. And working across here. There is the other one. And this is how far I've gotten so far piecing it together. I'm so happy with it. It's coming along so well, and I think it's so beautiful. It's really a lot of fun. I'm enjoying making these and piecing them together so much. So, like I said, I use a 2.75 millimeter hook. I use a tutorial that I have here on my YouTube channel. You can that shows you how to make these motifs. In the tutorial, I do switch my colors 3 times throughout the hexagon. But for my blanket, I'm making each of my little hexagons in a solid color. So that's differentiation from the tutorial. In the tutorial, I show you how I crochet over all of my ends, and I am doing that again. So here is the back side, and it doesn't have a lot of ends. They're all crocheted over, so I don't have to worry about weaving in all of those ends. That would be so overwhelming if I had to do that. So I'm very happy that I'm just crocheting over all of the ends, and I am joining my hexies as I go, and that's going really well. So the only ends that I have are the ones along the edge here that have not been crocheted over yet, but they will be. I did have to be a little bit thoughtful about the edge because this is actually, you know, the edge of the blanket right here. And so when I am making those hexagons, I'm careful to make sure that the end that I leave is going to be crocheted over by the next hexagon. So I don't want to leave a tail on this outside edge. I want it to be left on this side so that when I add the next hexagon, I can crochet over that end, if that makes sense. Otherwise, I would have to weave in all of those ends along the edge as well. So I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to leave the edge just like this, or if I'll add something onto the very end or not. My initial thoughts were that I was just going to leave it as, you know, this would be the border, and I wouldn't add anything extra. They kind of curl a little bit though, so I don't know if adding a border would help that to lay a little flatter. Of course, I haven't blocked it all yet, but that of course would probably help it lay flat as well. And then the other thing that I'm questioning is whether I should try to straighten up the corner and the edges along this way. This edge is really nice and straight, as you can see here, now that I've added in those extra half hexies. But at first I was just planning on leaving it zigzagged along the edges, but now I'm kind of wondering if I should fill that all in. And if I do that, should I just fill it in with the Bear colored yarn? Or I probably would have room to put in a tiny little, like a 3. I think it would have enough to have a 3 colored hexie, like partial hexie. I think it would probably be best if I decided to straighten it out, if I just use the Bear probably, because it'll be too minimal to add another colorful part, if that makes sense. Anyway, so let me know your thoughts on what you think would be best. If I should leave it a zigzag edge on the sides here and the corners, or if I should square that off. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do there. So I started this project on May 14th of this year, and I'm hoping to get it finished. Oh, I don't know. There's no time crunch, but I'm hoping to continue working on it so that I can see it come together, you know, in a relatively, I don't want it to drag on and on. I want to get it done as reasonably quick as I can. But I'm enjoying it still so much. Like I said on my last episode, I'm afraid that I'm going to get super tired of making all of these Bear colored hexagons because they're not very interesting, but it's still been so much fun because I get to add in a new hexie quite often, and it's really fun to piece it all together. All right, my next work in progress is an update on my cardigan. And like I mentioned, this is the last project that I have off of my Make 9 board. And I didn't mention, but I am hosting a Make 9 make along on Instagram again this year. So that is what, you know, this is for. This is being held in a project bag that I sewed myself. And the cardigan I am working on is the Close to Me cardigan, a design by Lily Kate France. I started this project on September 25th. I'm again using Knit Picks yarn for this project. I'm using Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted weight in the cranberry colorway, which is 100% Peruvian Highland wool. And that's held together with Knit Picks Aloft, also in the cranberry colorway. That is lace weight, 72% Super Kid Mohair, 28% silk. I am making the size 2. And last time I recorded, I was working on, I had done the back and 2 front pieces and had started this first sleeve. So after I joined in the, joined the whole cardigan in one piece and knit just about an inch under the underarm here, then I started the sleeve, and it has a short row shaping for the sleeve cap here. And then I was right here where this progress keeper is marking last time I recorded. I have not included any sleeve decreases, which are in the pattern, but I did not do those. I just knit my sleeve straight. And then I also made another modification in the original pattern. She has some garter stitch details along the sleeve cuff here. Do you see where it kind of angles in right there on the sleeve cuff? Here's another picture. You can kind of see how the garter stitches go up into a little point right there. But I decided not to do that. I just knit my sleeve straight, and then I did actually give it a wet block so that I could see if the sleeves would stretch any. They did, and I happened to catch it just at the right time so that once I wet blocked it, I was ready to do the cuff. So that was great. I wanted to mention that when this is now, well, lately, I guess, in the last couple of cardigans that I've made, I've been doing wet blocking midway through my project. As I'm knitting it, I'll stop and give the whole garment a complete wet block. And when I do that, I do not take any of my knitting needles or even my stitch markers off of my project. I just put everything in the water. And I just let it soak for about 20 minutes in the water. And then I take it out and squish all the water out of it and lay it flat to dry. And nothing gets rusty or anything that quickly. So it's fine. I use metal needles. Those are Chowgu red lace needles. And my stitch markers are metal as well. And it doesn't bother anything. So I thought I would mention that because I think some people might think that, I've heard people say that if they want to try to wet block something, that they'll try it on tubing or waste yarn, and I don't do that. So I thought I would just mention that it's not necessary to do that. Anyway, for this cuffs then, after I did 142 rows, I think it was. Not that that matters really. 142 rounds on my sleeve, and then it was at the length where I was ready to do the cuffs. So I did a rapid decrease knitting stitches, doing a lot of knit two together stitches, so that I would decrease down to the cuff stitch count that Lily has in her pattern for my size. And then I just knit garter stitch, so knitting one row and then purling the next row for a total of 14 rounds, and bound off with a regular knit stitch, which she also calls for in the pattern. And I had decreased my needle size. So for the majority of the project, I am using US 7 4.5 millimeter needles. But then for all of the garter stitch sections, I'm using US 4 3.5 millimeter needles. So that is what I used on the cuffs. And then also there's this garter stitch section on the shoulders that I use the smaller needle size for that as well. But I'm really enjoying how this is coming along. And I have started the second sleeve, so that's what I am working on now. And it's nice and easy, since I'm not doing any decreases, it's just knitting in the round. So it's a great project to have on the go. My next work in progress is also being held in a project bag that I sewed myself. I haven't made a ton of progress on this one. It is a muscle Bur Hat, which is a design by Ysolda Teague. And I've only made a couple of inches of progress on this. So last time I have my yarn in it, it's at the stage now where I can have the yarn being held right inside the hat, which is super handy. On here I have an adorable progress keeper that my cousin Allie made for me. That's marking where I was last time I recorded. So I've only made maybe 3 inches of progress on this hat, but it's another project that's extremely portable. And I guess I just haven't had a lot of out of the house time where I needed a project to have on the go. So this one hasn't seen a ton of progress. So I just lost some stitches, but I'll fix that later. I started this hat on October 2nd. The yarn I am using is Yarn Bee Authentic Hand Dyed in the Hibiscus Palm colorway. That is 100% superwash merino wool. And I have 2 cakes of this yarn left over from an Odyssey shawl that I knit for my friend Eva, and there was some leftover yarn, so she said I could make another project with that leftover yarn. So this is what I'm making with it. And the second cake that I have is here. The die lots are quite different on these two. So I plan on, in between the 2 cakes, adding in this solid color of burgundy to kind of break up the 2 colorways so that you hopefully won't be able to see a stark change from the 2 different cakes of yarn. It will probably work out that it will be about half and half though, probably. I have about 105 grams of this colorway, measuring both of the little cakes. So it may work out that, you know, the muscle Bur hat is folded in on itself, and so you only see half of the hat at once anyway. But anyway, that's my tentative plan, is to break up the 2 colorways with that burgundy color. So I am using 1.5 US 1.5 2.5 millimeter needles for this project. I got a gauge of 7.5 stitches to 1 inch, and I am making the adult small size. My next work in progress is again being held in a project bag that I sewed myself. And it is my Colorwork Cuff Club socks that I am making, a design by Summer Lee. And this is the one of the charts for the month of October. And I've made a little bit of progress, well, quite a bit of progress on these. I want to get these finished by the end of the month though, so I need to kind of focus on working on these a little bit more than I have been. But I made a lot of progress since last time anyway. I have, let's see, last time I recorded, I was here where this progress keeper is marking. This is a little progress keeper from a maker in Germany called Million Dots. I haven't looked recently to see if she has anything in her shop, but I got a whole set of little fruit progress keepers. Well, actually, I think they were stitch markers, and I put them on a clasp. Anyway, I don't remember what this fruit is called, but it's not an apple, but it looks like one. But it's some sort of a berry that I don't remember the name of it. But it looked very similar to the apples in this Colorwork chart, so that's why I grabbed it. For these Colorwork Cuff Club socks, I have been making all of my socks in the same way. So this is now the 3rd month that I've made a pair of socks. Well, anyway, this is the 3rd month of the Colorwork Cuff Club. And for my socks, I have been casting on 60 stitches because that's what fits my foot the best. It's a differentiation from her pattern though. She doesn't call for 60 stitch cast on in her pattern, but that's what I do for my socks. And I do the 2x1 ribbing for a total of 12 rounds for my cuffs. And then I use US 0.2 millimeter needles when I cast on. And then when I do the color work, I switch my needles to US 2.5 3 millimeter needles, and I use 9-inch circulars. And I also increase my stitch count to 72 stitches. And I flip my work inside out so that my color work floats are being worked on the outside of my sock tube. All of those things combined really helps me to get a great fit for my color work section so that it's not too tight and it fits my, over my heel and everything easily. So for these, I have used Knit Picks Stroll Tweed in a variety of colors. The main color I'm using is called Indigo Heather. And then the light gray background here is called Down Heather. The green in the leaves and the stripes is Dill Heather. I did use a little mini of a brown colorway that I'm not sure what it is. But then the main part of the apple is made using Firecracker Heather. That is a fingering weight yarn, 65% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon, and 10% Donegal tweed. Once I finish the color work section, then I again decrease my stitches down to 60 stitches and I switch back to my US 0 needles and I join them again in magic loop, knitting 2 at a time because that's my favorite way. Last time I had mentioned I was just going to make the rest of the sock in the indigo heather without any stripes. Summer Lee actually does call for you to do stripes in the socks, but I had thought I would just do them in the solid indigo heather color way, but I was getting a little bored working with just the plain color. I mean, it's tweed and it's my favorite color, purple, but I don't know, I was just not gravitating to picking these up once I got to the stockinette section. So I decided to start striping in some of that dill heather, and I'm super happy that I made that decision because I think they are really cute. Summer Lee's stripes in her socks are even, so she does, I think, maybe like 4 rows of each color, so they're evenly striped. But I had already knit 10 rounds in the indigo purple when I decided I wanted to add some stripes, and I thought it would be cute just to do a smaller stripe of the green. I also don't have a ton of that dill heather colorway left over. I used it to make my first pair of Colorwork Cuff Club socks as the main color, so I only have partial skeins of that dill heather colorway left over. So anyway, I am doing 10 rounds of the indigo heather and then 2 rounds of the dill heather, and I think it's really cute. So I have already done the slip stitch heel flap and gusset or heel turn and then gusset decreases. I used the dill heather for the heels, and now I'm back into the foot, just knitting, the foot. I'm already past the gusset decreases. So it's going great, and I think they're super fun, and I'm very excited about how they're coming along. I am not cutting my yarn as I stripe these. I just have the dill heather skeins tucked inside of here when I'm not using them. So they're just stuffed inside the sock tubes, and that way I don't have a tangly mess. I mean, you can see I kind of have a tangly mess because I'm doing 2 at a time, so it's not that bad though. Look, it's already sorted out. I just love doing my socks 2 at a time because it is, I really enjoy the process of doing it that way so that I don't have to count as much. I know that they're gonna match, and yeah, I don't have to worry about making a whole nother sock after I've already finished one. It's just my favorite way of making socks. So those are coming along well, and it shouldn't be too much longer. Once I get to the foot, it usually goes pretty quickly to finish those up. I have one more work in progress to share with you that is quite a surprise to me. I really didn't think that I was going, because this next project is very, very close to being finished. I'm actually all done knitting the project, and I'm just doing some finishing work on it. And it is my excavation blanket. I have finished all of the stripes in this blanket. This has been a project that I started back in the year 2017. And so definitely my longest work in progress to date. I am really excited that I have finished the knitting on this. I really didn't think that I would get it finished this year. I wasn't sure, but I didn't think I would. But I did, so I'm so excited about that. I started this on November 17th of 2017, and I finished the knitting on it on October 13th. So I'm so excited. This is another free pattern. The designer is Jana Pahota. I used US 2.75 millimeter needles for this project. It's made all in fingering weight yarn. And the way that I worked on this project is whenever I finished a fingering weight project, if I had enough leftovers, I would add a stripe of the color that I used to this project. I learned how to knit in 2017. So all of the knitting projects that I have ever made using fingering weight yarn have a stripe of color in this, unless I didn't have enough. There were a few times when I ran completely out of a colorway when making a project, and so I didn't have enough to work into this. But if I had anything left over from a project, it is in here, so that's super fun. Along the way, I kept track of where I was when I, for example, when the year 2018 started, I put a stitch marker on that spot, and I kept track throughout the years of how much progress I made each year. And I really I was trying to think of a way to have that be marked on my finished project. And I decided, well, this project is knit from like corner to corner, basically. So you start, let's see if I can find where I started, which corner I started on. You start with, here it is, this corner, and you just are knitting one, well, you go across and back again for one color stripe, and then you leave a tassel on the end, or not a tassel, but fringe. You leave a fringe, a piece of a tail, a long tail on the end like this. So you don't have to weave in your ends. And I knew that I wanted to not leave my tails just like this, but to finish them. And I remember seeing an episode by Marina of Pineapple Yarn a long, long time ago where she shared about, I think, a woven project that she was working on, and she used a fringe twister to twist the fringe at the end of her project. Which, by the way, if you didn't notice, Marina has started podcasting again after taking a 2-year break, which I am so excited about. She already has a couple of new episodes out that she's posted within the last month or so. So please go check out her channel if you haven't already. I love her, and seeing the things that she's working on is so exciting. And she's going to start dyeing yarn again. I think she has an update at the end of the month, I think she said. So that's so exciting. Okay, anyway. So I wanted to do my finishing off like that as well, twisting my fringe. And then I thought I ordered some beads that have numbers on them so that I can mark the year in which I've finished each. Well, actually, I put it at the start. So this is where 2017 starts. And then I have 2018 right here. So this is the section, or one of the stripe in here is where 2018 started. So I was very excited to be able to continue to mark, to have a way to continue to mark the year breaks on this project. And I'm loving how my fringe is looking. It's so cute. So I ordered a Fringe Twister from the Woolery, and that they had great customer service. For some reason, when I placed my order, I didn't put in my correct zip code. I had a number off accidentally, and they contacted me and wanted to make sure that my address was verified. And anyway, I highly recommend this shop. And I ordered this Fringe Twister. So it looks like this, and I will link to a tutorial that they have on their YouTube channel showing you how to use this little gadget. But basically you can use, I don't think it's necessary to use a certain number of strands of thread, but in their tutorial they use a total of 6 strands per little twisted fringe. And that's what I'm doing as well, because it worked out for my count to make sure that I had an even number across one side. So I put 3 strands in one little clasp, and then 3 in the other. And then you just keep track of how many times you twist this. So I do mine 12 times. So I go 1, 2, 3, and I do that 12 times. Keeping track so that each of the little tassels or fringes will be twisted the same number of rotations. And then you just tie an overhand knot at the end. And I am being careful to measure each of mine so that I tie the knot at the 3-inch mark, and then I cut my extra little tail here for 1 more inch. So the total of my little fringe is 4 inches. I just wanted to make sure they were all uniform as much as possible. And so I have 3 different colors in each tassel because each colored stripe has 2 ends. and I'm using 6 per little twisted fringe. So I have 6 strands, or 3 colors and 6 strands in each little fringe. Then when I do the beaded, if I do a beaded one, I have to do a double knot on that so that the beads will stay put. And I have already finished one side, so the first side of my blanket. I've gone all the way across, which you can see here. And I actually have beads all the way up to 2021. So there's quite a few, there's 5 different tassels that have beads on them on this side. And then the other side will only have 2022, 23, and 24. So I guess I must have knit more with, or crocheted. If I crocheted a project using fingering weight yarn, I also added it in. Anyway, I must have used more fingering weight yarn in the last 3 years than the previous 5. But anyway, I still have the other end to do, which you can see here. I did make a modification to my blanket. When I got to the half, so the way that this pattern goes is you do, I can't remember if it's at the beginning or the end of the row, but you do a knit front back stitch either at the beginning or the end of the row for every row. And each color you go across and back again. When you get to the halfway point, then you're supposed to, you can continue working in that same way. But if you do, then you're going to have half of your blanket showing the right side and half of your blanket will show the wrong side. I wanted my entire blanket to show the right side all the way through. And so when I got to the halfway point, I started purling all of my stitches, and then I just did a purl 2 together stitch at the end of each row, purl 2 together, so that I would be decreasing my stitches. So that's what I did for the second half. And I took the marker out to show where I was last time I shared this project as a work in progress. I didn't mark it, so I'm sorry about that, but I just had this little corner left to finish up. So anyway, this headband was the last project that I added in. So even though I held this yarn double, I still added in because I used fingering weight yarn. Anyway, so I'm so pleased that I have finished the knitting on this, and it won't take me too much longer to twist the fringe on this side. I have markers still here showing the different years. This is the beginning of 2024. So I am super excited that I have, I can definitely see the finish line on this project. It's so exciting. I will show it as a completely finished object on my next episode, and I'll stand up and show it to you in its entirety at that point. But yeah, super excited that this one is near the finish line, and then I am planning on making another one. So as soon as I finish another fingering weight project, I will start another one, I think, because I just love the process of making this, and I love the looks of it, and it's so much fun to just be able to keep track of the, it's kind of a memory blanket of the projects that I have made. And then look at I've been saving all of my scraps that I am cutting off from my extra fringe. So this is all of them from the first half of the blanket, but I'll save those and put them, add them as stuffing or something to a future project. Okay, I have a couple more things I want to share with you. I received a couple of patterns from a designer. She contacted me on Instagram and said that she really enjoys watching my channel and wanted to gift me some patterns of hers. So I was very thrilled about that. So she is Made by Azia on Instagram and Ravelry. And I had a look through her crochet patterns that she has designed, and there are so many that are gorgeous, but I picked 2 that I really loved and I'm excited to make, and I will insert pictures of them here. The first one is called the Around Town Tee, and this is such I think a beautiful yet simple project. It is crocheted using sport weight yarn, And I am planning on making this early next year so that I will be able to wear this whenever the weather warms up again. And the second project or pattern that she gifted to me, I'm thinking of even pairing with the Around Town tee, maybe. And that is the summer wave skirt. So I've never knit or crocheted a skirt before, but I'm really excited to give it a try. And I thought that this design was so beautiful. I can't decide what colors I should make these in, but I think it would be really fun to, make maybe a set. I wouldn't probably do matching, but a coordinating set that I could possibly wear together. I'm not sure, but I love this design of this skirt pattern. I think it is so beautiful. It looks like it wouldn't be too difficult to crochet, and it's also crocheted in sport weight yarn. So I think they would make a fun set, and I'm excited to make both of these projects early next year so that I will have them ready to wear when the weather warms up. So I just wanted to share those patterns with you all, and I will link to Asia's Ravelry page down below so you can check out her patterns as well. And thank you again so much for gifting me those patterns. I truly appreciate it. That is all I have to share with you all today. I hope that you really enjoyed seeing the things that I have been working on, and I hope that you're enjoying the things that you're working on as well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.